Torchlight 2 originally released back in 2012 on the PC and was a follow-up to 2009's original, while the critically acclaimed game is now available on the Switch, having been ported by Panic Button no less. Does it still hold up? We're about to find out. Plus be sure to stick around until the end of the video for details of how you could win a code for this game. Right, let's get started. Torchlight 2's story takes place after the events of its predecessor. One of that game's protagonists, the alchemist, has been driven crazy by the influence of the first game's main antagonist, Ordrak, and has destroyed the town. This sends you on a mission to stop this new threat and bring down the alchemist. Gameplay wise, Torchlight 2 is a dungeon crawling action role playing game. You will create a character, choosing from one of 4 character classes, being the engineer, the outlander, the berserker, and the Ember Mage. Their attributes differ in terms of being more adept at using magic, long range weapons, or possibly having quicker attacks. You can also choose from one of a number of pets, including the Switch exclusive Unicorn, and these will assist you on your journey in ways that we will discuss later. You begin in a hub town, and from here you can talk to the locals, some of which will offer to buy or sell you various items and potions, some may offer you quests, and some will just exchange gossip with you. Moving on from these hub areas will see you enter the overworld, where you will encounter enemies for the first time. Following the map will lead you to the game's dungeons, and this is where the meat of the experience lies. Dungeons are comprised of multiple floors, and are procedurally generated. They will all offer an advisory warning as to the sort of level you should be before entering, more on levels in a moment, and the higher the level of the dungeon, the more deadly the enemies. There are a lot of enemies in the dungeons, and you must fight your way through them whilst attempting to find the stairway that will take you to the next floor. Reaching the final floor of a dungeon will see you battle a boss. I'm sure one of the burning questions that people will have regarding this port is how does a game that was designed with a keyboard and mouse in mind translate to a console, and of course the use of a controller? Well, the developers have clearly put a lot of time into making sure that the game feels native to its new home and control scheme. The user interface includes the controls in the bottom left corner, with all of the actions having been assigned to their own button. For example, a press of the L or R buttons will allow you to use a health or mana potion respectively, with the amount of these you have left even displayed on the screen too. You can zoom the camera in or out by using the right stick. When you are attacking, holding down the attack button will lock your character into place, allowing you to then use the left stick to aim your attacks and therefore be more precise, and this works very well. You will earn experience points, or fame, whenever you defeat an enemy, or for completing quests, and filling the experience bar at the bottom of the screen will see you level up. Each time you level up, you will gain yourself both skill and stat points. Skill points can be put into your skill trees, and each of the 4 character classes has 3 skill trees of their own. You can put your skill points into these however you see fit, and therefore shape your character to suit your playstyle. Stat points work in a similar way, although these points relate more to your character's base statistics rather than additional skills. So putting points into strength will increase weapon damage, or improving your character's dexterity will make evading attacks easier. So what else is in these dungeons other than enemies? Well, it wouldn't be a good dungeon crawler without loot. Lots and lots of loot. Defeating enemies, smashing pots, and opening chests will see you earn yourself gold and find items. These items range from weapons, armour, or pendants, and these can be equipped to your character and will grant you certain buffs and powers. For example, it may increase your strength statistic or add an additional buff to your weapon. You may need to reach a certain criteria in order to use a particular piece of equipment, such as your character being a certain level or needing to have high enough statistics in one particular area. You can also receive stat boosts for wearing a complete armour set. There's a lot more to equipment than this, and it holds an incredible amount of depth, way more than you might initially realise if you are unfamiliar with this game. You can sort through all of your equipment in your menu screen, which is accessed by pressing the plus button. The menu is fairly clean, with each of your tabs accessible by scrolling through with the L or R buttons, and the left stick used to then navigate each respective screen. This part would obviously have been more succinct with a mouse, but it serves its purpose perfectly well, and everything you need is completely accessible to you. Grinding for loot is unbelievably compelling, and I found myself spending huge chunks of time in the menu screen offering one piece of armour up against another in order to pick the best possible piece. One thing I really enjoyed about the first Torchlight was how it allowed you to pack up your pet with all of the loot you had collected that you didn't want, and they would go and sell it for you. This meant that you never got to a point where you were having to juggle new loot with stuff you didn't want, deliberating about which piece to leave behind before you could get back to town and sell it yourself or stash it away. Well, this system returns for the second game and is as helpful as ever. By going into your menu screen, you can choose to send your pet to town once you've chosen the loot you wish to sell, and they will return a short while later. You can also use this screen to equip any pet specific loot to your animal or change their stance. The three stances available to you are a passive, attacking or a defensive stance, and these will affect your pet's actions when you are in battle. Torchlight can be played with up to 4 players online, with you able to host a game or join one, and when playing in multiplayer, each character gets their own separate loot drops. I could only find one match whilst writing this review, with one other player involved, but this did run well and there were no issues. When it comes to local multiplayer, the only option available is LAN play. This of course calls for each player to have their own Switch plus copy of the game, and it's disappointing that a couch co-op option on the same Switch wasn't incorporated. LAN does work well though, and again it's nice and smooth, but you can't help but feel the lack of a couch co-op option is a missed opportunity, as it would have played to one of the Switch's greatest strengths. Finally, once you have beaten the campaign, there is a New Game Plus mode. You will be able to keep all of the skills, gold and gear that you've collected through your first playthrough to assist you with the new challenge that awaits you. Gameplay has that compulsive element of collecting loot, as well as the urge to keep going further into a dungeon or completing one more quest, although the lack of couch co-op is unfortunate and it scores 18 out of 20. Controls work well, with the user interface a big help, as is having your most frequent items assigned to a button press. Menus are perfectly navigable, if a tiny bit cumbersome at times, but overall receive 16 out of 20. As mentioned earlier, Panic Button took on development duties for this Switch port, and their ever-growing reputation is certainly improved further still by Torchlight 2. I could not find official confirmation of the frame rate for the Switch version anywhere unfortunately, but it does run incredibly smoothly, even when the action gets hectic during dungeon battles, and it's just as smooth in handheld mode, and I've not had any instances at all of slowdown as of yet. We have reached out to see if we can get official word on the frame rate, and if I do get this I will post it in the top comment. On a personal level, I really do appreciate when games utilise the full range of seasons in regards to the colour palette, and use weather effects, and Torchlight 2 does both of these things. Summer green fields resemble oil paintings at times, with the blades of grass looking like they've been created using strong brush strokes, whereas at other times the pale purples in the autumn sky give the impression of having been painted with watercolours. When it comes to the audio, the word ambient probably describes Torchlight 2 most accurately. There is not a lot of music, and what there is will usually be drowned out by the sound effects. In fact, I had to turn my Switch up pretty much to full capacity in handheld mode to even hear the music at times. However, when the action does die down and you are moving through that dark dungeon, that echoing of the winds through the corridors will be there, effective and unobtrusive. There are also a few sound bites, such as your character remarking on their current health level when low, or a few sentences from NPCs. Visuals are bright and clean, whereas performance is solid and it scores 17 out of 20. Sound does its job and complements the visuals without ever really standing on its own 2 feet, and gets 16 out of 20. Torchlight 2 costs £17.99, €19.99 or $19.99, and for this price you are getting a game that could last you anywhere between 25 to 30 hours to well over 100. You will get out of it exactly what you put in. If you are looking for a fair sized game but without getting too bogged down, you can play it at a shallow level and have a good time. If you want to go big, there's enough loot, side quests and a New Game Plus mode to get lost in. There is also the multiplayer aspect, although not couch co-op unfortunately, and had it had this it would have scored the full 20, but as it stands it gets 19 out of 20. To conclude, Torchlight 2 is a fantastic ARPG that has translated across to the Switch very well. An intuitive control scheme and smooth gameplay are big factors in this, and the gameplay loop of defeating enemies and getting loot is as addictive as ever. For dungeon crawlers on the Switch you have a few choices, with games such as Nine Parchment, Remy Law, Victor Vran and of course Diablo 3, but Torchlight 2 is right up there with the best of them. Torchlight 2 receives a SwitchUp score of 86%. Thank you all for watching this video. Please do remember to leave a like if you like what you've just seen. Thank you to our Patreons as ever for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Now, I mentioned at the start that we are doing a giveaway for a couple of copies of Torchlight 2 to subscribers, and to enter this you just need to write in the comments section below which pet is your favourite in the Torchlight game and why. We will pick a couple of winners in the coming days and announce them in one of our upcoming videos. Good luck to all of you with that. Take it easy, and until next time, happy gaming.